Patriots may not be in Marshall County, but they're going to be on WRAB, Michael St. John, his radio station. They're going to be all their games broadcast live. So Coach Plunkett is with us today. And, Coach, introduce the two guys you brought with you and give us an outlook on the season for the Brewer Patriots.
You got senior linebacker Micah Steffen. He'll also play some tight end and slot receiver. 6'1", 6'2", according to how I use my pencil right there, but he obviously plays a lot bigger than that. And then I got Lee Murray, who'll be a free safety, could also be an outside linebacker in some packages. He'll also play slot receiver for us as well. Both are seniors, extremely hard workers. And, we've got 8 seniors right now. We added, I think last year they had 3 on the squad, so we've got 8. Building towards, getting that number to around 15 over the next couple of years. But this group of seniors is absolutely fantastic, great leaders. These two, I don't think they've missed a day since June 11th, which was my first day, and they represent our high school fantastic. And we're excited, and our theme is move forward. Let's go.
First of all, Coach, I want to ask you how excited you are to move back home. I understand you're almost, 3 or 4 miles from the school, so you're actually back home.
I'm about 10 miles from the school. It's just a few-minute drive, though, dropping down the mountain right there. But, I've been at some places that weren't necessarily home. You always try to be a coach that always buys into the community and loves the community. But this place is really special because it's personal to me. I've always known about Brewer High School. My brother-in-law was at Brewer High School and within Morgan County for almost 13 years. It's always been right down the road. It's a big farming community. Our kids don't just work hard, in sports. They work hard off the field as well. We have one of the best career tech programs in the entire country, much less the state of Alabama. And our kids work hard. And they go on, and, most people may have 75% of their students go on to college. 75% of our students go immediately into the workforce, and they get after it. And so our kids know about hard work, and establishing that brand for me is really, really important because that's who I was as a young man. And I worked in the chicken houses, I worked in the hay fields, and then I went to football practice. And that's what these guys do every day, and that's why it's personal to me. And these guys can win. They're winners.
You mentioned you started on June 11th. How tough is it for you and this football team? That's just a short period of time to get ready to play a football season.
Well, you can look at it as a challenge or you look at it as an opportunity. I look at it as a great opportunity. And our guys have not shied away from hard work from day one. And, June 11th, seems like it was just yesterday. But I tell you what, this football program has accomplished a lot in just a few days. We've raised our numbers from, I believe, 29 young men showed up, and we're almost to 50. You can look at our roster I brought you today. I believe we're at 48, and we've got one young man because of a zoning situation will have to sit out this year, but will become eligible the next year, and so he would up our roster a little bit. But, my goal was to try to get us to 50 by August 20th. We start school August 11th. There's a lot of guys that I haven't been able to meet with. And I believe, over the coming years, we'll increase our numbers. I can tell you this, people have always had a whatever viewpoint about Brewer High School. The place is absolutely immaculate. The facilities are fantastic. But we have an excellent pool of athletes and people that know how to work hard. I think once we establish our brand, this senior class, has really set their expectations high, and they're ready to move forward with their career and start this season out with a bang, and we're excited about that.
Coach Plunkett, I might tackle sleep with the troopy. All right. Tell us your strategy, why you decided, even though you had the opportunity to start early, a week early in practice, you decided not to. You devoted some time to your middle school program and getting your staff hired.
Yes. Well, we hired 5 coaches. We had 5 assistant coaches spots and teaching spots open. So we spent a lot of quality time. I didn't want to rush that process because the people that we have working with our young men every day is extremely important to me. And having the right people in place and taking the time is something our administration wanted to do a very diligent job with. And so we've actually got 2 guys that still are going to be board approved Lord willing, in the next 24 hours. So I didn't want to start practice and not have those guys ready to go this week. We were able to get some installation practices on Monday and Tuesday this week. But I mean, focusing on lifting weights, focusing on getting stronger, focusing on building the numbers in our middle school program. Right now, we're about 39 kids in our middle school program, that's 7th and 8th grade. We've only got 36 helmets, so we're having to work through that problem. That's a great problem to have in our middle school program. But, if we can keep those numbers growing, and by the time those kids are seniors and juniors, you're nearing close to 20 per class right there. And that gives our kids an opportunity to compete and have a chance to win every Friday night. And I know what type of work ethic that I have, and I've been very impressed with the work ethic that these seniors have. And I tell you what, the sky's the limit.
Hey, Coach, right here. I just wanted to ask you mentioned it about the success that Brewers had in athletics in the past. Girls basketball has been outstanding back in the day. Still, for you to try to build this program to where you want it to go, could you kind of just walk us through just the vision that you have and the very reason why you decided to come back home and was sold on the vision of what Brewer football and what that program can be?
You got it. And, anybody that's ever had children knows that your children is the most important thing in the world to you. We all go through some tough times in our career. The tough times that I've had have been very limited, but I've been very blessed in my career. But you go through some things that allows you to evaluate who you are as a person, where you want to go as a person, as a professional, and the type of father and husband that you want to be. And being back home, I felt like I could raise my children the way that my sister and I and my wife had the opportunity to be raised. And we've got a section of land, about 140 acres that I was able to be raised on right there just north or really south of our school. And that was very personal to me. I coached in the Birmingham metro area for 5 years, coached Texas high school football for 3 years, spent about 10 years at the college level in Division II football, a couple of years as a student assistant at Alabama, coached in a Division II national championship game at Pittsburgh State, coached with the winningest coach in Division II history, Coach Ken Sparks at Carson Newman for a year, recruited the whole state of Alabama, spent 3.5 years at the University of North Alabama right after they had really had a string of national championships in the mid-'90s. And so I've learned a lot and been around a lot. But, I played at Arab High School. I grew up at Arab from the time I could walk. Never missed a practice from the time I was 3 years old to when I graduated. And, being back close to home and being able to coach, a school like Brewer who has great kids and the kids are hardworking, I want to help turn this program into what I know it can be. And it can be a winning, competitive program. We have great kids. We got a hard-working nucleus. The school is fantastic. The facilities are, I'm telling you right now, 50 schools in this state would take our facilities right now. And a lot of credit, I'll tell you what, goes to Jeff Walters. Jeff Walters worked his butt off getting those facilities where they needed to be over 6 years, and he made that happen. And guys, 3 years ago, Brewer High School was 8-3 and in the state playoffs. I think there was some things, chemistry-wise, that were there, but building off that momentum where they were 3 years ago, these guys remember that feeling. They were young players then. They know what it was like. Our goal is to get to the state playoffs, compete for the region championship, and win that first state playoff game. And we're setting our goals high, and we don't want to just win one. We want to win multiple playoff games. And we expect in October to be competing for the region championship. And we're going to set our goals extremely high, and we're going to work extremely hard. And I promise you, I'll hold them accountable.
This one's for the players. Coach obviously has a fantastic resume. Just read it off. Ton of experience. He's happy to be back home. How long did it take you guys getting a new coach very recently to buy into his philosophy and what he wants to bring to the table going forward?
That's a good question. So when I first heard that we were getting a new coach, I was biased because I was with Jeff Walters for, 4 or 5 years, him being at Brewer. And nothing but respect to Coach Walters. But when Matt Plunkett came to Brewer, it was like a switch. I mean, he just, I was biased. I didn't think, just because it's a new coach coming, I didn't think, he was going to really care about us or anything. But he really took the time to get to know us, get to know our families and get to know the area and stuff like that. And I really appreciate them.
Re-ask the question from Micah right there.
I was saying, how long did it take you to buy into Coach, his philosophy, and what he's bringing to the table?
I was very excited when he came up. I've heard a lot about him before he's even hired, and when he came in, I bought in day one. I mean, if you look at his resume, he's good. I'm just ready to get to work with him.
Coach Plunkett, back in the back here.
There you go.
Two things. Number one, Brewer High School, like you said, is a great layout. It's one of the most beautiful places to call a football game in the South, in my opinion. But you also draw from three distinct areas that feed Brewer High School. You don't have a true city or a town. You're drawing from three different areas. How tough is it to bring everybody together? Because as the past be known about Brewer High School, there have been factions that have kept it from being united. What can you do to unite those communities?
Well, I think one advantage that I have in uniting our communities is my brother-in-law was a principal for 5 years in one of those communities at Kateka. He was also a football coach at Kateka. He was the head football coach and head basketball coach. And he knew firsthand what the struggles were, what the obstacles were. And we had a lot of conversations in the backyard underneath the shade tree over the last 10, 15 years about what it would take. And I'll just tell you something. Our Kateka community, our Union Hill community, our Eva community, and our Lacey Spring community, it is massive. It is massive. I've been in the Gardendale community, the Coleman community, the Locust Fork community, spent time in Texas in the Magnolia community. The one community I can compare it to would be Magnolia, Texas. And it's massive. And when the coach can get in there and be a liaison and be very visible and recognized, we did some feeder camps last week. Our numbers, I think we ended up having 62 kids ages 5 to 12 last Thursday night. And it was a Future Patriot camp. I was extremely excited how fired up the parents were. I've been to basketball practice. I've watched our baseball team. We have a tremendous pool of athletes. I think the thing that was missing was an athletic program attitude. You've kind of had a really good female sports. The male sports seem to be all separate entities, all the way back into the feeders. It was basketball, basketball, basketball. And then they took football away and brought it to Brewer a few years ago. And so our 7th and 8th grade are at Brewer. But I think just the visibility, being able to get kids on the bus every day to get to Brewer, having a 5-year plan in motion, to help build that program even stronger, starting with this team is very, very important to us. But, right now our 7th and 8th grade numbers are nearing 40. We've actually got 3 helmets short. We're working on rounding up right now, and every football coach in the state and the country knows how hard it is to find football helmets right now. We actually had to purchase 14 off of Amazon the other day, which I never thought I'd experience that in my life. And our auto body guys actually painting 12 helmets as we speak that I brought from Locust Fork. So, there's a bunch of obstacles, but those communities are amazing. I've taken kids home and I've went to pick up kids. I bet I've driven, oh my goodness, it almost seems like 200 miles because I was on Airport Road picking up a kid the other day, leaving Brewer High School. And that's South Huntsville. So you sit there, and if you're visible and you have a great brand and great product, people want to be a part of it. The key to being successful is people want to be attracted to something, and parents want their kids to be a part of something that can help them grow and develop into better people. And it can't be just about football, football, football. It's got to be about, we want to build you into a better person, so 20 years from now, you're making our community better. And that's what these young men are about, because a lot of these young men, they're tied to their families. They're tied to their family farm. They want their kids the same way I want my kids, in a great area, in a safe area, they can raise their families one day. And so 20 years from now, I'd love to ask these guys the effect that their high school football program and their career at Brewer High School had on them. And if that was a positive, they're going to bring their kids back. And that's what we want. And that's what we want to build and create a tremendous tradition.
Coach, one last question. You are a chip off your old block of your dad, who was one of the greatest coaches I've ever worked with. And this year, instead of being an assistant on the sideline or an advisor, he's going to be in the press box. And he's sort of shy. I don't know if we can get him to talk. But how's it going to? At what point have y'all already had to talk about what he can and what he cannot say on the radio?
Funny, he came to me the first time that he's ever asked my permission for anything. I've usually asked him, can I mow my own grass, just because he don't want anything getting in his pastures, because he takes care of those. But my dad, without getting emotional, he loves his family. And he knew that us leaving the Birmingham metro area was not an easy decision, but it was the right decision. And him being able to be directly involved to support our kids and support our program and to really bring an insight to the game of football. My dad has always been known as a name dropper, but he can back it up. He knows some big-time people and has coached in some big-time games and big-time environments. And I think, one year some people, like to poo-poo about the junior high coach, but I think that's where football is really first learned, is at that level. And I know Dad went 5 years one time without losing a game. And his kids that he coached in those 5 years today would still take a bullet for him. And that means a lot to me. And I think he's going to have an absolute blast being able to just give his insight on the game of football. You may have to put a red buzzer. That means, hey, next play, because he may talk about the previous play 4 plays ahead. So anyway, but he's going to love it. And I'm excited. And I appreciate you guys reaching out to him.
Coach, a couple of quick questions for you here. First of all, having the opportunity last year to call a few Brewer games, it felt like the kids really came out fired up in every game. We started with their hair on fire, a fire in their belly, and as the game went on, it kind of felt like they kind of dwindled on that a little bit, got tired. I know that speaks a little bit to conditioning. What have you done this offseason to kind of work on that a little bit? I know you weren't here last year to see that in person, but I'm sure it's been addressed, and you're working on that now. What are you doing? And two, if the schedule's right here, you got your first, out of 4 games, you got 3 games at home to start the season. What is it going to mean to you guys to get off to a fast start in your 3 home games to get the year going before you hit a 3-game stretch on the road?
Well, I think the most important thing, I can look back over, some of our teams that made deep playoff runs at Gardendale. We had back-to-back quarterfinal teams. And, people always like to say, and I'm going to kind of answer this question the right way. Coaching at Gardendale, we had Clay, Chalkville, Pinson Valley, and Minor all in our region. We were the 4th most talented team. But somehow we won 5 playoff games in a 5-year time period, and we always made the playoffs, either as the 2 seed or the 3 seed. We developed depth. And one thing, these kids don't lack the energy. They don't lack the want to. These guys right here, they're going to play hard. But any successful program, you got to build depth, because you're going to have an injury. You're going to have things. That's part of football. I think I've only experienced one time in my life, and that was 2004 as a graduate assistant coach at Pittsburgh State in Kansas. We played 15 games, went all the way to the national championship game against Valdosta State, and we didn't have a single injury on the defensive side of the ball. The only injury we had on the whole team was a turf toe. But because we had a stellar backup quarterback in Andy Majors, we're able to overcome those things. So, really it's been about depth, and our players have responded to that. They understand that, hey, the more people we have, and going back to, Michael's question about my dad liked to always play a lot of players. He didn't like to focus the team around 7 or 8 guys. He really tried to play every player he had in the first half. Because at halftime, the halftime speech goes a whole lot better when everybody's engaged. Everybody's been a part of it. And so our kids have really bought into that attitude and that mentality that everybody's going to have a role, whether it be kickoff coverage, punt return, Maybe you're a third down guy. We're going to need to create a specialty, for everybody. And our kids have really bought into that. So we've almost doubled our roster. We move forward with an attitude, but it's not these guys' fault. I think the 18 and the 19 season, they had big senior classes. And then that 20 season, there was only 4 guys that had a driver's license on last year's roster. So these guys had all the energy and want to. That's a tough situation. They played hard, but when you're playing teams that had some bigger senior classes, that's what's going to take over in the second half is depth. And so us addressing that and our kids really understanding and, hey, we have to have depth, week 8, week 9, when we're competing for a region championship and competing for that playoff spot. We're going to have an injury here or there. We got to have a next man up attitude, and we have to be able to prepare people in practice. That's everything. And these kids have bought into that. And that's the number one reason why we will be competitive as a program is because of depth.
Coach, thanks a lot. Thanks, guys, for coming with the coach today, and we wish you the best. 3 weeks from tomorrow night, I believe you open with Danville at home.
Got it. We're fired up and excited. Thank you, guys.
All right.